Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna. I'm Rajarsi Dasa. Welcome to Hare Krishna today. We're continuing the series on preparation for spiritual initiation. We're going through the evaluation test. It's a seminar preparing students for attaining perfection. So some of the questions may appear to be on the theoretical platform. Let us look at a few of the questions that we are dealing with today. The first one, what are the 8 basic material elements? The next one, describe the 5 senses for acquiring knowledge, the 5 sense objects, and the 5 working organs. Then what are the functions of the mind, the intelligence, and false ego? Describe the structure of the universe and locate the earth within that universe. How many different species of life are there? Describe them and explain how the soul evolves through them. How does man change body through reincarnation? Don't worry, if we don't finish all of them today, we're going to continue in our next program. So, just before we start these points, someone may say, well, what is the need for going through all this detailed information? Well, we should note, this is for people preparing for Brahminical level, for attaining spiritual consciousness. And a Brahmana, Brahmin means Brahmajanati iti Brahmana, means he knows Brahman, he knows spirit, he knows the Supreme. But that really means knowing existence, knowing everything in existence. And this is the standard of information given by Lord Krishna in the Gita. In the 7th chapter, Krishna said to Arjuna, Jnanam teham savigyanam idam vakshyami asheshataha yaj gyatpa neha bhuyan yaj gyatavyam avashishyati. That I am telling you everything about this phenomenal world, meaning the complete manifestation. He says, and I am going to tell you everything about the source of it, and knowing this, there shall be nothing further to be known. But why do we have to know all of this? Well, in the previous verse, Krishna said, Maya saktamana partha yogam yunjan mar ashraya asangshayam samagramam yatha gyasesi tatrinu. That Arjuna, you just hear from me how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, that you can know me in full, free from doubt. If we have to practice yoga in full consciousness of Krishna, with mind attached to Him, well, we need to know things about this world because we are attached to these elements and we have a mind to deal with. And yoga practice means we need to know about this mind that is just escaping us and just going contemplating objects, dwelling on the objects. We need to know about our real identity, about the elements, how we are pulled and pushed around by the modes. So in Bhakti Yoga, some people think it, well, is an easy pick. Just fix your mind on the Lord, just chant. But actually, this is the result of having full knowledge. Krishna says, Bahunam Janmanam Ante. After Bahu Janam, many births of religious practice, then that will result in a person becoming Jnanavan, full of knowledge. Krishna says, when you are situated like that, mang prapadyanti, then you will surrender on to me. Because at that point you will know Vasudeva Sarvamiti. You'll know me to be everything. Everything comes from me. You will understand its relationship with me. And Krishna says, Samahatma Sudurlabha. Such great souls are very rare. So if you see someone chanting and dancing and in ecstasy and so on, don't think it is just an overnight thing. Evam vrataksva priya nama kirtya jatanurago druta chitta uchair hasatiyato roditi rauti gayanti unmadavan nrityati lokabhaya. For a person to attain this level, it requires the blessings, the mercy of a pure devotee, which amounts to the result of many, many lifetimes of study of all the scriptures, attending or visiting holy places of pilgrimage and so on. So, without deviating from our subject matter, we're going to get right into the first question. What are the 8 basic material elements? So after Krishna said, I'm going to tell you everything in the 7th chapter, which is called Knowledge of the Absolute, Krishna said to Arjuna, Bhumir apa nalo vayu kamano buddhireva cha hankara ityame bhina prakriti rashtadha. He says that earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, these 8 comprise my bhina prakriti, my separate material energy. So Krishna, he has many energies, parasya shaktir, multifarious energies, but they categorize antar anga shakti, the internal energy, the spiritual world, the spiritual manifestation. Then this material world that we experience is called bahir anga shakti, the external energy of the Lord, consisting of the earth, water, fire, air, ether. It all functions under the 3 gunas, the 3 modes that we described in the first session. So then, are we just looking at elements and manifestations? What about me? Always the question, what about me? Well, yeah. We have to come into the picture. So after Krishna describes these elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, that makes up everything in this world, the next verse, text 5 of the 7th chapter, Krishna says, Aparayam itashtu anyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhuta mahabahu yayedam dharyate jagat. Yes, he says that besides these 8 elements, Pancha Mahabhuta is referring to the gross elements, the earth, water, fire, air, ether. But the subtle elements, mind, intelligence, false ego. You have a mind, but I can't see your mind. Yes, intellect, the reasoning, rationalizing. We're going to deal with these in detail later on. But Krishna says these apara, inferior energy, matter, unconscious matter. But then Krishna says, besides this, jiva bhuta, there is jivas, para, it is para prakriti. Para means superior. So he says, besides this inferior nature that makes up the material body, there is a superior energy, jiva bhuta, spirit souls who are doing what? Yayedam dharyate jagat. They are trying to exploit this inferior energy, this superior energy, the jivas, the conscious eternal beings, the spirit souls. We have a body. We have a body that's a product of the three modes, this matter, this material nature. And with this body, yedam dharyate jagat, we're trying to control and manipulate and exploit the universe. So you ask the scientists and the philosophers, you know, what's going on in this place here? Yeah, they'll explain what goes on. Well, you know, an accident takes place, they'll explain what happens. But why it happens, they don't take any responsibility for trying to exploit this universe and then experiencing the reactions, the consequences. So if you think it is complicated why we are studying all these elements and so on, you should know that the fundamental flaw is that we, the eternal conscious beings, our business here, trying to control, manipulate, exploit. We're trying to be God away from God. And Krishna has no reservation in telling us what we're trying to do. Yes. He says, Ichadvesha samutena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani samohang sargayanti parantapa. That all living beings, not one and two and Adam and Eve, Sarva Bhutani Samoham, all living beings are born into delusion in this world because of their own Icha and Dvesha. Don't point your finger at Adam and Eve. We're suffering for their sins. No. Don't live in a grand illusion and fool yourself, and don't try to don't be accountable for it. No. Krishna didn't say Adam and Eve was born and then we're all suffering for their sin. He says Sarva Bhutani. Sarva Bhutani means all living beings. Because of what? Their own Icha, their own desire, and Dvesha, their envy, their hate, their aversion towards the Supreme. We want to be God away from God. So Krishna says, what we're doing in this world, Ishwaraham, Aham Bhogi. We are trying to be the controller and the enjoyer of this world. So Krishna, when he says, I'm telling you everything, well, Tatrinu, you better hear. If you don't hear, Nashoshasisa, if you don't hear, then Ahankar, you act out of false ego, Vinamshasi, you're going to be lost in the cycle of 8,400,000 species. So Bhagavad Gita is not no jokey business. Yeah, it's not just something you quote to decorate your presentation or your speech or something like that. Krishna is saying, Ye me matangidam nityamanutishtanti manava. My instructions is meant for human beings. If you want to have some dignity, you want to claim to be a human being, you want to distinguish yourself from the animals, Krishna is saying, Ye me matam idam nityam. My instructions are nityam, eternal. And anutishtanti manava is meant to be followed in an ongoing way by human beings. If we learn to follow the Gita, we'll distinguish ourselves from the animals. If we don't, samanyametat pashubhinaranam, we are on equal level with the animals. We won't get credit for complicating the activities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending with our developed intellect. No. Dogs eat on the street, their belly is full, and we eat on a nice elevated revolving restaurant, same result. Dogs sleep on the street, have sex on the street. Of course, today they don't hide and have sex, they have sex on the street also. So, of course, there's some competition with the animals going on, especially in the countries where there's carnival. You know what I'm speaking about. Yeah. So anyway, so much for what you may consider to be theoretical knowledge. We should know that the earth, water, fire, the air, and the ether is not just atoms and molecules just bumping around. Yeah, it's atoms and molecules, but Jiva Bhuta, they are conscious beings, spirit souls within these bodies, and under the spell of illusion, we're becoming attracted to these bodies, and we're trying to control and exploit these bodies, and Krishna warns us that yehi sangsparshaja bhoga dukha yonaya evati adiyantavanta kauntiya nateshu ramate Buddha. A person who is Buddha, he doesn't delight in these senses, just trying to latch on and enjoy the sense object, because he knows dukha yonaya evati. He knows this to be the source of all suffering, all misery. So Krishna is going through all this detail. 7th chapter, remember, for the students who are serious about completing this examination, we are looking at the 7th chapter, verses 4 and 5, where Krishna is explaining about the elements and the spirit souls and what they're trying to do. Okay, so we're covering the point again. What are the 8 basic material elements? Now you might think, well, this is really getting, complicated. Well, the next question: describe the 5 senses for acquiring knowledge, the 5 sense objects, and the 5 working organs. So you name it. Knowledge acquiring senses mean the senses that you're seeing, you're hearing, you can taste, you can touch, and so on. So where you can find these, you go to the Bhagavad Gita, yes, the 13th chapter, verses 6 and 7. And there we'll find the description of the details, the 24 elements, and so on, the interactions. So in the translation it says the 5 great elements: false ego, intelligence. They all manifested the 10 senses of the mind, the 5 sense objects: desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. So then you go down into the purport, and Srila Prabhupada is explaining. We're just reading a part of it. These are the 5 great elements. Then there are false ego, intelligence, and the unmanifested stage of the 3 modes of material nature. Then there are the 5 senses for acquiring knowledge: the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Then 5 working senses: voice, legs, hands, anus, and genitals. Then above the senses there is the mind, which is within, and which can be called the sense within. Therefore, including the mind, there are 11 senses altogether. Then there are the 5 objects of the senses. The 5 objects of the senses. Like the nose, latch on to the object of smell, then taste, form, touch, and sound. Now the aggregate of these 24 elements is called the field of activity. If one makes an analytical study of these 24 subjects, then he can very well understand the field of activity. So remember, this world we are in a field, just like a person, a farmer. He has his field, and he is the knower of the field. He is different from the field. So at the beginning of this 13th chapter, Krishna said that Kshetra Gyam Chapi Mang Vidhi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. He said you should know Kshetra, you should know the field, but then there is Kshetra Gya, the knower of the field. So the soul has a body, and we are interacting with the material energy. So the one who knows this body, the body is the field, and the soul who knows the body, he is the knower of the field. But then Krishna says, Kshetra Gyam Chapi Mang Vidhi, that you should know that I am also the knower in Sarva Kshetreshu, in all bodies. Yes. Repeatedly in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is describing his presence. Remember, our whole purpose is to learn to be God conscious, Krishna conscious. So we need to understand his existence, Sarva Kalo Idam Brahma, how he is pervading everything. Everything is resting on him in his manifestation as Brahman. That you can learn in the most confidential knowledge 9.4. But then, there he says, Maya tatang idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina. That in my avyakta, in my own manifest form, I pervade the entire universe. But then repeatedly Krishna is describing in the Bhagavad Gita his personal presence. He said, you should understand, Kshetra Gyam Chapi Man Vidhi, that Sarva Kshetreshu, that I am also. Now you, the soul, you're within your body, you're conscious of your pains, you know your body and your pains and pleasures. But the Lord is present within all bodies, Sarva Kshetreshu. Like a tenant in his apartment, yes, he knows where his fixtures, his sink, his toilet, he knows his apartment. But the landlord who owns the whole complex, he knows all the apartments. So the Supreme Lord, Bharata Bhokta Maheshwara, that Lord, he is the knower and the controller. He is the proprietor. Upadrashta Anumantacha. He is the witness and he is the permitter. He is the proprietor of all the bodies. So he knows all bodies also. In ignorance and illusion we think, yeah, I'll do things that nobody wouldn't see. I'll hide and do things. Hiding from whom? The Lord is right within us, Paramatma, Antaryami, the super soul within. And he says, I am witnessing and I am permitting everything. Permitting? You have questions, right? You mean to say that when the criminal takes his knife and his gun and he goes and he attacks someone, so you mean to say God is witnessing that? And he's permitting that? Well, if you don't believe that, you are confirmed atheist and an idiot of the highest caliber. Why? Because not a blade of grass moves without his sanction. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagat viparivartati. He says everything in this manifestation is working under my Mayadhyakshena, Aksha, within my supervision. Yes, everything is going on under my supervision. So you're confused now, right? God is supposed to be good and all-powerful. So how and why does he allow the bandit to go and take other people's possession? And why does he allow? Well, this material nature of action and reaction, we should know that if you bite your tongue, who you're going to blame for it? If you give up God and you come to this world and you act in ignorance, then when the reaction comes, you're only seeing a little part of the picture. Like you're going to the cinema, but you reach late for the movie. You reach late and you just see some people just beating up someone. And you think, wow, these people are cruel. Just see this violence, what they're doing to this poor person. But you came late, you didn't see when this person murdered some little child. You didn't see that part of the picture. So you didn't see someone perform an abortion, kill the poor child within the womb. You didn't see when someone took the possessions of another person. So now they're losing it and you're seeing one part of the picture. So Krishna says, Pashyanti Jnana Chakshushaha. Open your eyes, see with the eyes of knowledge. Yes, he says, those who are situated in knowledge, they can see what is going on, what is what. Otherwise, foolish people, they confuse and they blame. They play the blame game. This one is the cause. That one is the cause. Many people may be instrumental. Don't think, well, the government will get off the hook. Yeah, this karma thing sounds good. You mean to say, yeah, really? You mean so the government not to be blamed for that, right? No, sorry. What it means is they're acting in ignorance of their prescribed duty to educate the citizens, to put mechanisms and measures in place to properly educate the citizens to act properly and free themselves from their bad karma. So when they themselves are blind, why they blind? Because Naranancha they're supposed to be representatives of God, representing knowledge from God. But when they sit by themselves and they concoct their own laws and fabricate their own principles, then they create the chaotic society that is evident, and that is what we have today. So what we're saying is that all this so-called complicated study that you're thinking about, living in existence as a human being is not a blind business. You just close your eyes. Rabbit philosophy, ostrich philosophy, do what you want in ignorance, that you can do. But when the reactions come, then you should be prepared to take it also. But an intelligent human being knows that the human form with developed intellect is meant for preparation and for getting out the cycle of birth, disease, old age, and death, and going back home to the eternal world, the kingdom of God. Sorry, we have exhausted our time, but we are going to continue the subject matter. We're going to continue our series. I'm Rajarsi Dasa saying Hare Krishna, and do join us again next week for a continuing presentation.